Hi, welcome back to my channel. Now, I have some good news. I read two non-fiction books back to back. Like, who am I? I find it very hard to read non-fiction books. And I think I have cracked the code on what type of non-fiction books I really like and works for me. I am a mood reader, so it really needs to call out to me. I think the book needs to choose me if I need to read a non-fiction book. Before I start reviewing the books, I think I need to spell out what really worked for me. There are a couple of points. I think one, it needs to be a niche. It shouldn't be as broad as, let's say, a book on Amazon jungle or a book about life in space. If it is too broad, my attention starts to waver, and I feel like, I don't know if it is the case with you guys, but I start feeling that I need to remember every little detail in the non-fiction book. It becomes too educational and my attention starts wavering. So it needs to be about something really specific so that I can geek out on it. The second is, if the book is linear and if it needs to be read in a certain order, I think that is also something I find really difficult, because if there is a part or a section which is boring or is not to my liking, the chances are high that I am not going to continue reading it and I DNF it. So I think books, if I can read them out of order, or I can start from the last page, or I can start from any section or from any chapter of the book, then I think that's what works for me. The third is, I don't know why the world has decided that the book needs to be really boring when it is written for an adult, especially non-fiction books. I mean, when did we stop illustrating for adults? Where did this notion come from that only children need illustrated books? I think even adults need illustrated books, and it was one of the biggest reasons, or one of the main reasons, that why I was able to read non-fiction books back to back. It was because I picked up illustrated versions of it. I think there is a notion that, if there are pictures or if there are large or colorful pictures, it's just for children because children are more prone to benefit from them. But I think we all are visual learners, and I think consuming information in terms of pictures or in terms of illustrations is going to equally benefit the adults. The other reason is also, how is the information presented? Is it very statistical, or is it more fact-based, or has it, or if it's got some storytelling around it, or if the information is to my appetite. So I think long passages or too many details really does not help me. I think if the information is bite-sized, I'm able to retain better, because if I want to get interested into a topic that is not generally I read about, I really need to find it fun and not very technical. So yeah, these were some of the reasons that I think I was able to read books that are not fiction. So now, the book that started it all. I was at the library, and like I said, I love illustrations, and this book caught my eye. I initially picked it up just to look at the illustrations, and I thought that I would read a couple of pages and then return it to the library. The book is Field Notes from a Fungi Forager. It is an illustrated journey through the world of Pacific Northwest mushrooms by Ashley Roderick. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. And the book is illustrated by Libby England. Now, it was a very thin book, and it had, I think, around 30 mushrooms. The book has short essays on different types of mushrooms that are found in the Pacific Northwest, and each mushroom had a corresponding illustration to it. Now, I personally really like eating mushrooms. In fact, I remember when I first discovered mushrooms and developed a taste for it, I would make it often. I would just make sauteed mushroom with onions, and that's all I would make. My brother till date jokes about it that the only dish that I have fed him is mushrooms and onions. So that is how much I like mushrooms, but I never gave it a lot of thought. So when I came across this book, it immediately caught my eye, and I decided to take it home just to go through the illustrations and maybe read a couple of essays about mushrooms. But the book was fun reading the book. I loved every bit of it, and kudos to the author for making it so palatable for anybody. I mean, even if you are a non-reader, you can pick this book up and can geek out on mushrooms, and trust me, you will not be disappointed. In fact, the essays are not even like a couple of pages long. It's just one illustration and one page of essay, and it's so easy. I think the author talks about 30 different mushrooms. I am forgetting the count. And where can you find them? What are the conditions that they thrive in? And her experience with the mushroom. So those could include that when was the first time that she found that mushroom while foraging, or if she's looking forward to some mushrooms that she would like to come across. And since it's very localized to Pacific Northwest, it was easier for me to consume that material since I live in the region. I think it is one of the best books to get into reading about mushrooms if you are interested. So the mushrooms that she spoke about, some were edible, some were non-edible, some were poisonous, some were harmless, some were medicinal. She also shares the scientific name and also the season when you can find them. But again, the author really wants to emphasize on the fact that this book is a field note. Just imagine that the author went foraging and she took a notebook with her, and it's her notes. That's it. It's not a guide to go mushroom foraging. So if you are really interested in going mushroom foraging, then I would recommend looking up some books that are officially written for this purpose, because it's very important that when you go foraging, you are able to pick up and recognize the non-poisonous ones, because mushroom foraging makes up for about, I think, 70 to 90% of deaths caused by eating fungi. Mushrooms are fun and cute, but they're really dangerous. I started getting interested when the first few mushrooms had really cute names like penny bun, green elf cup, and then fairy ring mushrooms. Like I said, just because there were illustrations and these bite-sized information, I felt like I was reading one of those picture books when I was a kid, and I would feel so intelligent and so satisfied that, oh my god, I've learned something new. And at the same time, I was having fun. And oh my god, the illustrations, I don't think it can get better than this. They were gorgeous. I absolutely loved the illustrations. Kudos to Libby England. These illustrations are hand painted. I saw this on her Instagram. I'll put up a picture here, and you can see that she's standing with a stack of papers with illustrations on it. So I cannot imagine the love and hard work that has been put into making these illustrations. And also the author has tried to narrow down her years of experience into this little book. I am definitely going to get some mushroom artwork maybe for my wall, because I think now I don't only enjoy eating mushrooms, I think I'm going to really appreciate when I come across a mushroom, because I feel like I know a bit more and how mushrooms are so important for our ecosystem. So now this was a library copy. I went to the library to drop the book. I came across my second non-fiction book, that is Vanishing Treasures. I don't know if you can see this light, but oh my god, I thought I was having fun with the mushroom book, but I had an even better time reading this. If you were to ask me that describe a takeaway from this book in one sentence, it would be humans are stupid. Yes, and the planet is better off without us. Now we all know this is not a surprise, but this book just solidified my thoughts. And we will get to that in a minute. Now the essays in this book were longer and a bit more detailed. But then again, the language and the storytelling is so simple that it really kept me hooked until the end. I mean, I finished this book in 4 days. I was busy adulting. So it took me 4 days to finish this one. The illustrations are not as colorful as the mushroom ones, but this book proves the point that if you are a good storyteller, even a short story or an essay is going to be enough to put your point across. So the author talks about 20 to 22 endangered creatures, and each essay is dedicated to each creature and it has a small illustration. Each essay starts with a story that always caught me off guard, because when I would read the first 2 sentences of the essay, I would wonder that how is this going to really connect to the creature? But then just 2 or 3 sentences later, my mind would be blown and I was always caught off guard, because the story was always about some folklore or something that happened way in the past, or maybe in the 1500s, or maybe when the first time somebody came across this animal and what were their thoughts. Something like that. And the hook for each essay was fantastic. I loved the author's sense of humor and the simplistic writing. She is a children's book writer, so no wonder the storytelling was to the point. This book can be consumed by anyone. I wouldn't say it's for younger kids. It's definitely from middle school and upwards can read this book, but it's fantastic. I think the UK version is called The Golden Mole and Other Extraordinary Creatures. I think the cover is a little different. I'm going to put one here. That's what you even find in India. But this is the US version. I have markings because I have a lot to talk about this book. I am going to remove these tabs before I return the book to the library. When I started reading this book, I was a little worried that this book is going to leave me sad, because it is talking about endangered species of animals. And it is never a good thing to read about the destruction around you. It's already stressful enough. But this book will actually make you think. And I believe that whatever makes you think is going to stick with you longer than whatever makes you sad. I mean, the sad feeling sticks, but then you don't want to really confront whatever makes you sad. But if something makes you think, you are going to dig deeper into it. So let me share some fun facts and some fun stuff before I get into the stupidity of humans, because it's really important that you first appreciate the good. So this was the first time that I was hearing or reading about the Greenland shark, and this is the illustration. Oh my god, it looks so gorgeous. The Greenland shark is the planet's oldest vertebrate. Yeah, but until now the scientists were not able to figure out how to record or find out the age of the sharks, because these sharks are rarely found and they are usually in Arctic, as the name suggests. But recently scientists have been able to find out how to determine the age. So let me read out the passage for you. By testing the crystallines in the shark's eyes, it was possible to determine very roughly their date of birth. So of the 28 tested, the largest, a 16.4 foot female, was reckoned to be somewhere between 272 and 512 years old. I mean, can you imagine? 500 years old. And the size is a good indication of their age, and these go up to 23 to 24 feet long. So that means it's very possible that in the water today, there are sharks who are well into their 6th century. To give you context of the timeline, so even before India was colonized by Britishers, or when Queen Elizabeth I existed, it's possible that sharks that existed back then exist even today. Is your mind blown? Because mine is. The other is, this people must have heard about. I think these birds are not as unknown as the Greenland shark, the swift, the bird swift. So these birds, they fly. They fly all the time. So when they are young and they are chicks, they train hard for the moment when they will take their first flight. So they do feathery push-ups and they really try to hold their body on their wings for as long as possible. It's like birds doing plank, and the longer you are able to hold, the stronger you are. So the young chicks in the nest strengthen their wings from a month old by doing feathery push-ups, lifting their bodies up off the nest by pressing down on their wings until they can hold themselves there, suspended for several seconds. Then they are ready. And once they take their first flight, some birds, they fly for days, some fly for months, some for 2 to 4 years, and some just never stop. They fly all the time. Wow. So, and when you're flying all the time, it's obvious that you're going to do everything mid-sky. So if they want to build a nest, they find things that are in the sky, and they literally bathe in the rain, and they are the only birds to mate in the sky. But if they never land on the ground, how are they sleeping? They sleep with one eye open and only half their brain shut. So that way they are just flapping their wings and are stationary in one position and are not drifted away while they are sleeping. So when they wake up in the same place, and then they continue their journey. So cool. Let me talk about crow. Crows are extremely intelligent, and crows have been in daily news quite a few times for their smartness, because crows are known to hold grudge. I mean, good or bad, they will hold it, they will remember it, and they will hunt you down if they have something against you. So I believe that being on the good side of the crow is really important, and I have an anecdote from the book to tell you why. So there was a girl in Seattle called Gabby. She made it to the news because when the crows she had fed every day since she was 4 years old began to bring her gifts in return. So the crows would find whatever they felt was shiny and was worthy. They would get those trinkets for Gabby, a pendant that they find on the road, or a Lego piece, or whatever they think is really important. And it was not just Gabby that they were looking out for. Once Gabby's mom, Lisa, she went out to click some photographs, but she had dropped her lens cap, and she only realized when she was almost home. But the crows in the neighborhood actually kept an eye, and when she reached home, she saw that on her garden path, the lens cap had been returned to her, balanced precisely on the rim of the bird bath. Camera footage showed a crow arriving with it, walking it to the bird bath, washing it several times over, and laying it out to wait for her return. They notice us, they punish, and they reward. I mean, a crow found the lens cap, but now not only the crow was smart enough to return the lens cap, but it was also polite enough to clean it before handing it over. Even us humans sometimes just ignore interaction, and we don't help even when we can. A lot of times. I mean, we are all guilty of it. But just imagine crows who have a bad reputation. They washed the lens cap before handing it over to her. And this is what I'm saying. It's the fact that this anecdote was shared in the book just really makes you appreciate that the animals are so much more than we know. And then I think that is the perfect segue to talk about the human stupidity, because that is precisely why these creatures, these beautiful creatures, are endangered. It was very common for humans to think that if an animal or a creature is good at something or has a quality that the human desires, consuming that animal is going to make them good at that. And I think it continues even now. So for example, just because bunnies are famous or infamous for procreation, and they procreate and they reproduce really fast, or just because the oysters are a little suggestive in their design and shape, they were thought to be good for human reproduction health. The thought that eating a certain animal is going to make them good at something that the animal is good at really is the testament to humans' stupidity. I mean, beavers were hunted for their testicles. So, but it doesn't stop there. Another example is bats. So now bats are night creatures and they usually come out in numbers at night and hide during the day. So invisibility and the ability to see in the dark is often associated with bats. Bats have been popular invisibility ingredients for hundreds of years on every continent. An 18th century book of magic written by Albertus Magnus instructed, pierce the right eye of a bat and carry it with you and you will be invisible. Or in some of the folk remedies, in parts of American Midwest, it was hoped that submerging your eyes in the bat blood would let you see in the dark. So yeah, but then I wish the human stupidity had just stopped. But no, we really pushed our limits, and trust me, whatever I shared sounds way less stupid than what I'm about to share. During the Second World War, an American dentist called Little S. Adam came up with a plan to blow up Tokyo. So the plan was to use Mexican free-tailed bats to carry small timed fire. I don't want to get striked on YouTube, so we are going to call it Bob. Since the bats are night creatures, they wanted to catch Tokyo off guard by sending bobs with the help of bats, and the idea was to release these bats at night. Then they would roost in Tokyo, and then the bobs would blow up at the decided time. And they did this because Tokyo had wooden houses, so it would burn easily. This was approved by the government. This was the government approved project. And let me tell you what made them approve this project. Bats, Adams said, were ordained by God to await this hour to play their part in the scheme of free human existence and to frustrate any attempt of those who dare desecrate our way of life. To which Roosevelt said, this man is not a nut. It sounds like a perfectly wild idea, but is worth looking into it. Now you may wonder, why did this plan not succeed? It's because there was a mistake in the moment in which the bats were released, and instead of flocking across a wide area, they all bunched together, roosted under a fuel tank, and exploded the testing center. And that is why the plan was abandoned in favor of a new idea. And we all know what that new idea was. So yeah, I mean, apart from personal consumption, apart from health reasons and using animals in warfare, another reason is the need to own or consume exotic animals. The need to stand out has desensitized humans to their own destructive behavior. I don't think humans in general realize that how their wants, if not even needs, is really impacting the ecosystem around. In the 15th century, Lorenzo, he was one of the biggest supporters of Renaissance. So he would from time to time turn a city in Florence into a hunting field. A host of exotic animals would be collected and unleashed in the square in order to be massacred. Those exotic animals would be put together in a confined space, and then people would hunt those animals just for the pure joy of it. And this was done because the animals were exotic. The thrill that they were able to kill an exotic animal and later brag about, or the fact that they were able to consume an exotic animal, was the intention behind it. Now, by no means I want to say that people who consume meat are bad. I mean, I do eat meat, and I don't really want to sound like a hypocrite, but for somebody who had meat very often, just reducing the number of times that I consume also has an impact. There are several ways to preserve our ecosystem. I don't consume it as often. It's very easy for me as an Indian to eat vegetarian or vegan food. There are multiple dishes in Indian cuisine, so it's not that difficult for me. But I do consume meat here and there, but I don't consume red meat. I don't consume any exotic animals. So yes, when I'm sharing these anecdotes about meat consumption, I'm not trying to shame them. I'm just trying to show that how humans think and how our desires have really ruined our planet. Coming back to this exotic animal hunting. This is an anecdote from the 15th century, but there is a modern version of this. At the high-end Japanese restaurant chain Nobu, Nobu is a restaurant in London, New York, and LA, and it is partly owned by the famous Hollywood actor Robert De Niro. So it is possible to buy bluefin tuna. Now, bluefin tuna is critically endangered. Any consumption of it should be stopped right now. Like as we speak, it should be stopped, because if not taken care, they are going to become extinct very soon. And the tuna that are commonly consumed and found in the supermarket are skipjack, albacore, and yellowfin. The London restaurant menu at the time of writing includes a slimy little asterisk. Bluefin tuna is an environmentally threatened species. Please ask your server for an alternative. I mean, if it is endangered, why have it on the menu? This is like putting the pressure and responsibility on the customer. It sounds like as if that were enough to absolve the restaurant of their part in the supply chain. You create a demand because you want to put that on your menu, and then you put the customer responsible. But why do that? The psychology behind it is similar to that of exotic animal hunting. It is because it's their scarcity that makes eating them so visceral a thrill. So that's the point. It's all about thrill. It's about being able to brag later that, oh, I did something that only a selected few people in the world could do. And that is exactly the reason that why the restaurants still serve exotic animals. But also, when I was reading this book, I found something really handy. Skipjack, albacore, and yellowfin are the commonly found tuna fish in supermarkets. But there's a catch to it. When these are fished, dolphins, who often swim alongside tuna, are collateral damage. 300,000 whales and dolphins. 300,000 is 3 lakhs. So 300,000 whales and dolphins are caught and discarded every year as bycatch of industrial fishing. So they're just collateral damage. I mean, the fishermen who are fishing tuna, they don't even need whale and dolphins, but still 300,000 of whales and dolphins are caught and they're just discarded. So the water is basically full of corpses. So to avoid this, you will often find, and I'm going to put up a video or a picture that I found at the supermarket, that you will find dolphin safe labels. Even if the label doesn't say dolphin safe, you might find something like what you see on the screen, that it was caught by a fishing rod or a fishing pole. That label means that each tuna was caught individually and no dolphins and whales were harmed. But the author says that dolphin safe labels on our tins are reckoned among marine scientists to mean next to nothing. The carnage takes place miles out at sea, where regulation cannot be constant and inspectors can be bribed. So the author is saying that there is no way to regulate and really know if the tuna was caught using a fishing net or if it was caught using a fishing rod or a pole. And yes, that is why I say that my takeaway from the book is that humans are stupid. But like I mentioned, the anecdotes, the storytelling, and the facts stated in the book, they really make you think in a way that what is it that we can do towards saving the environment. It is something that is the need of the hour. I want to quote something from this book, A Psalm for the Wild Built. I think this quote perfectly tells us how human needs are out of hand. So this is a fictional book, and in this, the world is divided into two parts. The 50% of the world is for humans and 50% of the world is for animals and wildlife and everything. The main character says that 50% of Panga's single continent was designated for human use. The rest was left to nature and the ocean was barely touched at all. It was a crazy split if you thought about it. Half the land for a single species, half for hundreds of thousands of others. But then, humans had a knack for throwing things out of balance. finding a limit they'd stick to was victory enough. I mean, it's so beautifully written and it just ties everything that I was talking about this book beautifully. The book that I'm currently reading is Never Home Alone. From microbes to millipedes, camel crickets, and honeybees, the natural history of where we live. This book talks about the creatures that are in our house. There are about 200,000 different species living in the house that you can and cannot see with your eyes. When we try to sanitize our house, we go overboard, and in the process, we actually kill bacteria that could be beneficial for us. Now, these bacteria are present everywhere, in your fridge, in your bathroom, in your taps, in your closet, in your storeroom, bed, everywhere. But not all of them are bad. I am on chapter 3 right now. It could get a little more detailed than the first 2 books that I spoke about. This has a lot more, like when was the first time a certain bacteria was discovered, and there are some scientific terms here and there, but it's not something that you really have to retain to get the most out of this book. Again, it has anecdotes and good storytelling to really tell you that what happens in the house, and no matter how much you clean, you will always have somebody else living in the house apart from the humans. I think I've gone into a rabbit hole. I started with mushrooms, then I moved to creatures, and now I've gone down to like bacteria and microbes. But I am really loving this journey. This was not on my radar. In a couple of last videos, I already spoke about the books that I want to read, and I am clearly deviating. But I'm really happy because this was a happy diversion, and I haven't had fun in such a long time. I never thought reading about bacteria and fungus and crows would bring me so much joy, but I think I have found my niche of non-fiction books, which I'm really happy about. This is going to take some time to finish. It has a lot of text, very less pictures, just some black and white pictures. This video was very different from what I make, but I hope you really liked it. And I want to end this video with a thought. The greatest lie that humans ever told is that the earth is ours and at our disposal. It's a lie with the power to destroy us all. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and if you have read any of these books or if you're planning to, just let me know in the comments and I will see you next time. Bye.